I've been meaning to vlog on someone who inspires me for quite a while. His name's Augusto Boal. He is a Brazilian theatre director. He passed away last year. He founded a completely new revolutionary theatre technique which is studied all around the world, and with the way the world is, I think it's something that I think could be useful. The theatre techniques that he developed, the ones I studied, were known as the theatre of the oppressed, which covers a wide range of different techniques. Too many to go into now and here, but they're used in drama therapy, they're used in conflict resolution, and they're used in activism as well. Augusto Boal was born in Rio de Janeiro. He studied in the US and then he went back to Sao Paulo to set up a theatre there, and that's where he developed most of his ideas. He was considered a threat by the Brazilian regime, and he was kidnapped in the street. He was arrested, tortured, and eventually he was exiled to Argentina, where he wrote the book Theatre of the Oppressed. So his style of theatre was considered dangerous, and the reason why it was considered dangerous is because it created very real social change, created very real results in terms of activism. It empowered people. The bit of his work that I wanted to vlog on in particular is something called invisible theatre. It's based around the idea that the traditional methods of theatre were quite oppressive. When you think about it, the audience are set apart from the actors. They're there to watch, they're there to take things in, to learn. Traditional theatre is very much tied into morality, and if the main character of a play did something wrong, they would face the consequences of that, and it served as a way of teaching people or affecting their thinking from a moralistic point of view. Basically, the only theatre you would get going on in the Royal Theatre or Royal Theatre houses in London, for example, would have been messages and ideas that were supported and backed and funded and approved by the Queen or the elite. You very much had a one-sided approach to teaching the masses, affecting their thinking and their way of behaving as well. So from Boal's point of view, traditional theatre forms were quite oppressive. Instead of traditional theatre where the theatre shaped the audience's thinking like a form of propaganda, his methods turned that completely on its head, created an entirely new role for the audience. Rather than being spectators, he called them spect-actors, which basically put them at the very centre of the dramatic event, in a position where they could react, interact, and shape the course of the play, or shape the course of the dramatic event. A really effective method that he devised was something called invisible theatre, and you can probably guess from the name. The idea of invisible theatre is that the audience doesn't actually realise that it's all a play, that it's all devised event, that it's something that's been created by a bunch of actors. So they interact with the event and with the dramatic events as though they are real, because they are real to them. It's something that provokes an honest reaction, an honest emotional reaction, so the audience gets involved because it matters to them, because they believe something that they want to put across, whether it's to change what's happening in the devised theatre or to affect the outcome. So invisible theatre gets around the whole passive way that audiences tend to view something. So Boal's thinking in that is that if you wanted to create change in society, you had to, creating change needed to have internal dialogue, that people watching theatre had to take away something that was real to them. So because the spect actors believe that it's real, it engages their internal selves, their internal dialogue, their emotions, their problem-solving skills. It engages them in a way that it becomes a part of their experience and something that they will genuinely take on through their lives, discuss with other people, so that the social change plays out. It doesn't just happen in the theatre where people get indoctrinated and told. They actually become a part of it and become engaged in it. So that was the whole idea of spect actor, that the person has an active involvement in the event. In practicing invisible theatres, the actors come up with a scenario or an idea, and they also plan out characters, basically what each character's mindset is in relation to a particular topic. And they'll also really loosely map out what they expect to happen, the script or the plot. But they can only map it out in a loose way because in invisible theatre anything can happen, because you have the public there who will get involved, who will change the dialogue completely. They'll completely direct the course of the dramatic event. So there's no script or no dialogue you have to learn. It's just you've got an idea of what your character is, what it's intending to do, or how it relates to the other characters, and through that you basically improvise a scene in public, in the street, in a coffee shop, in a bar, wherever you like, and you engage the people around you in the discussion or in the whole situation, which is a make-believe situation, but to them it's real and they react to it accordingly. They would tend to be emotional topics, things that would address inequality or highlight areas of oppression like racism or class oppression or poverty, various forms of discrimination. So they tend to be very emotional topics, and very real topics that go on in everyday life. It's got its elements of risk to it, because in different practitioners of invisible theatre will tell you that they've seen fights broken out, they've been arrested, because there's that element of you just don't know how the public will react, and when there's sensitive topics involved, it can go either way. But invisible theatre really acts as a kind of litmus test as well, and to see what do people think about certain topics, and not just what do they think about it, but how do they deal with it when it's actually put in front of them. Is it different to how they think about it, or when it's made real, if it's an actual event, do they surprise themselves? Do they surprise each other? So it's about bringing a dialogue into a theatre event, into street theatre, or into, in this case, invisible theatre.